Hi, I'm Daisha Donner, and I'm the director of Apple Blossom Community School. We're located at Rail River Folk School here in Bemidji, and we're in the process of becoming a very small nonprofit private school. We've been there for about 3 years, and prior to that, I was the director of Campus Childcare Center at BSU for almost 10 years, and then I opened my own group family childcare in the basement of the United Methodist Church, Apple Blossom Childcare, and I did that for 5 years. Today I'm here through Peacemakers Resources, and I'm sharing some ideas and tips and hints that I've learned over the years with working with young children and my years of childcare experience. And then I've also been taking Waldorf teacher training in Portland, Oregon. So a lot of what I have learned and use with young children, I have learned and been inspired by the Waldorf philosophy. And I talked a little more about that in my very first video. So Waldorf education was founded in the early 1900s, and it's a really creative and outdoor-based, arts integrated education for children. Early childhood, especially in the Waldorf philosophy, really resonates with me, and I think that there are pieces of the Waldorf philosophy that anybody can use and put into practice, and that might be helpful, especially in these unprecedented times that we're in right now. So in my last video, I was talking about some self-care, and I wanted to get to getting through transitions during the day and some ideas to turn transitions into rituals. But of course, I thought of a couple more things about self-care that I wanted to mention first. So one thing that I really learned to do over my many years of working with little ones is to take a deep breath. So before I answer a child, or if I'm starting to escalate at all or get impatient, remembering to take that deep breath ourselves is such good role modeling for the little ones, for them to see that we need to sometimes take a moment too and take a deep breath. But I really have found that helpful before I say something and sound frustrated or impatient with a young child. I take a deep breath, and that usually helps clear my mind just enough to help me get back on track and focus on the needs of the young child in front of me. And what else? Oh, and I also wanted to mention to try to take time on the weekend to find something that really interests you, whether it's handwork, knitting, crocheting, gardening. Now that it's getting nicer out, a lot of people like to garden, and getting out in nature is just such a great way to rejuvenate. So getting outside to take a walk, even in the winter months, to try to get outside a little bit is helpful. And even if we're outside with the kids, getting that time alone in nature and going for a walk on a trail or walk through your woods or get out to the garden by yourself is a totally different feel than when we're trying to care for young children and we get outside. All outside time is good, but it's great if you can get out there yourself too. So I just wanted to mention those two things. And then I wanted to move on to transitions and turning transitions into rituals. So when we think about our rhythm and putting in place a rhythm that has in-breaths and out-breaths and flows from one activity to the next, there's still going to be those times of the day, those transitions. They're still going to be there. And so you want to try to build your rhythm with transitions in mind and keep it as flowy as possible and as calm as possible, and to make the most sense. But even after we do all that, we're still going to have to deal with transitions. So one of the transitions that happens right away in the morning, of course, is the parents dropping off their kids. And that can be a tricky time of day for young children. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that because especially right now when kids know that something is going on and they can feel it, they pick up on what adults are feeling so easily. And, and the families maybe having the news on in their homes or listening on the radio, or they might be talking about COVID-19 over a dinner with their spouse. And little kids' brains process those things differently than adults. So adults might want to know what's going on and want to turn the news on and feel like we're taking steps to be prepared and we're knowledgeable about what's going on, and that's good for adults to some extent. Even we need to take breaks from the news. But little kids, really very, very small doses of hearing those kinds of adult conversations is best. And we want to protect children and nurture them. And I know that some people are more privileged to be able to do that than others. If you're right on the front lines or your mom is a nurse, they're going to know and they're going to see and they're going to be affected by that. But we want to do what we can to protect them and hold them close and nurture them. And so even when they come to us in the childcare setting, then we want to be careful about what we're saying and what we're talking about, and conscientious of not having the news on in the background and things like that when they're in the childcare setting, so that they can just relax and feel safe and be kids. So that was a quick little aside, but now back to transitions. When the parent drops off, and if a child is really having a hard time with letting go of the parent, a couple of hints that I've found from working in a childcare setting is that short and sweet for the goodbye is the best. And that's not to say that you shouldn't take some time to build that relationship and that trust between you and the parents and you and the child first. If at all possible, maybe the parent comes with the child and visits even after hours and has a cup of tea with you, so that the child feels that the parent and the caregiver have that trust with each other, and they can see the space, they can play with the toys, those kinds of things as new children are entering into your care, or doing just mornings for the first week so that the child can adjust. So after you've gone through that adjustment period, then you want to start to have a conversation around shortening the goodbye and coming up with a little ritual that works for the parent and for the child. So we, as the childcare provider, would want to take into consideration what the child's age is and what their interests are, what brings them comfort, and have some of those things ready and available and be ready to try some different things. So a soft stuffed animal, a soft cozy blanket, a cozy spot to snuggle when they first get there, a favorite toy or activity out. Maybe they really like the blocks or a certain type of manipulative, or maybe something a little more active would draw them in. The blocks would be a little more active, but rather than cuddling and snuggling, some kids like to get engaged right away. So Play-Doh at the table or coloring at the table can sometimes attract those kids and ease that transition. I do think that it's a good idea for the parent to actually say goodbye and not just sneak away. A lot of parents like to do that, and it can seem easier at first, but what we want to do is build trust that the parent is coming back. And so when they sneak away, that can be confusing for the child. So encourage parents to say goodbye, but to keep it short and sweet, and then help them develop a little ritual that they do the same thing the same way every morning, whether it's, okay, one more big bear hug, or a high five, or the parent could kiss the palm of the child's hand, and then the child can keep their kiss for later, or put it in their pocket. That has worked for me in the past. So I just wanted to offer a couple of little tips, and I know that that's can be a hard transition during the day. And then, let's see, what other transitions do we have? So calling them to circle time or the tidy up time. I really like my chime, and Peacemaker's Resources has made these available to a lot of the providers, and you could ask about that. So I use my chime to signify that tidy up time is going to begin, and then I sing this little song, and I'm sure you all have songs too, and just keep the rhythm and do the same thing every time, and then kids know what to expect. But here's my song. Tick tock goes the clock, what does it have to say? Time to stop and tidy up and put our toys away. And then a hint that I learned from my Waldorf training is that we need to do the action, and then the kids will follow. So we have to start putting things away, and then the kids will follow. Or we might have to hand something to the child and ask them to find its home, or to go tuck the babies back into bed, or park the cars in the garage, or find the dollhouse toys home. Or the more you can keep that imagination alive, the easier those things will go too. So keep the child kind of playing while they're putting things away is a hint that I want to offer there. And then the transition for hand washing for older kids. So infants and toddlers would be different, but preschool, maybe 3.5, age 4, this could probably help or work. I have a bean bag, and often we would go from a little circle time or from doing some finger plays and then line up to wash hands. And so at the end of circle, I would have my bean bag ready, and they would make their hands like a little boat, and then I would know that they were ready, and I would toss the bean bag to a child, and they would toss it back, and then they knew it was their turn to line up. And the kids that got there first could go ahead and start washing hands, and then having that hand washing song and the hand washing procedure that they know that they need to take about 20 seconds with that soap and water. And we would just do Twinkle Twinkle or the ABCs. You might have another song that works for that. But tossing the beanbag kind of slowed down the crowding, and I still would end up with a line, but at least some of the kids were starting to get through by the time I was tossing the beanbag to the last child. Sometimes you can run into those first kids are having a conflict then in the bathroom, so you have to play around with all of these ideas and see what works for you. But I wanted to offer that one. And then inside to outside, that's another transition, and that one is hard no matter what you do. But songs can be helpful, or a visual of what to put on first, second, and last, especially in the winter time. I've had to draw a little chart sometimes. For some kids, they like to see that snow pants come first, and then their coat, and then their boots, and then their hat, and then their mittens. Using songs while you're getting dressed can be helpful. Then from coming outside to inside, I had a gathering call. Lately I've been using my little flute outside, but a chime can work if you ring it fairly loud. And then I would start singing, and we would often go in a little line, and they would just follow behind me. So I used the following song that I learned one summer at one of my Waldorf trainings, and it goes like this. Come, follow, 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 follow me. Whither shall I follow, follow, follow? Whither shall I follow, follow thee? And then the song goes on, but I would usually just sing that part over and over until they were all gathering and all starting to come behind me. Maybe the very youngest kids, one would be in arms and one would be held by the hand, and then preschoolers could follow more independently behind. Oh, and I have another one. For tidying up, this might work after rest time if they all have little blankets, or this could work if you have them help fold, if you have like play cloths or tablecloths that you give them to build forts with, or blankets that they can get out during playtime, towels, maybe big towels. It works on small and big. So this is one of our play silks that we use, and what you do is you take 2 corners and then the child takes the other 2 corners and you sing this song. Butterfly fly high in the sky, butterfly down low, butterfly fly high in the sky, butterfly down low. And then you walk towards the child with your corners and they walk towards you, and you do wings together, and then I would usually take it and help them. Friends forevermore. And I might finish that part, or they might still have a hold, and I've helped get them into the right spot so that we can match our wings together, and then quick switch and friends forevermore and fold it one more time. So that's kind of a fun one. They really like that. If you do it with a really, really big blanket, you can have more children helping, so you can have 3 or 4 on one side and you on a corner and another child on a corner. But beware, then they think it's like a parachute and they want to run underneath or hide underneath. So sometimes it's okay, and it's the right time for a game. And sometimes I just say, oh, we're not playing with that right now, or I need you to come out, we're trying to tidy up. And then I sing the song again. And if it's really not working, then you switch gears and you just fold it. But it can be fun for the kids, and they really like that little song. Meal times, so turning our snack time into a little ritual. We would have the kids help us set the table, and we use either placemats or a tablecloth and real dishes and cloth napkins. But even if you don't do all of that, having some kind of ritual around table setting and have somebody being the snack helper and setting out, and that's a good time to have them count how many do we need and set out that many napkins or that many plates. Of course, they need to wash hands first before they help you with the snack. And then we would light the candle, and usually for young kids we use a fake candle. So we turn the candle on, set that in the middle of the table. Everybody sits down. You can either all hold hands or hands in your lap and say a little meal blessing. And so here is one of ours, but there's many more that you could use. And we keep it ecumenical. We're secular. We're recognizing that we all have a spiritual part to us, but we're open to everybody. And so we keep our meal blessing very open. And here is one that we use. Earth who gives to us this food, Sun who makes it ripe and good, dear Sun above and earth below, to you our loving thanks we show. Blessings on our snack. And that just signified that it was time to eat, and was a nice pause. And so working with getting that flow into your rhythm and having those in breaths and out breaths and that deep breathing that happens just naturally in those moments of quiet. And so when you call them for circle and do a calming good morning song, that can be a time when they're taking those deeper breaths. The meal blessing works in that way. The chime is calming. Circle time with younger kids, with toddlers, is more of an invitation. Don't worry about trying to make them do it. Try to focus more on the invitation and that you are happy to be doing it. And they will often then see that you're happy and that you have something interesting, and they will want to come over. Preschoolers, I would say, oh, it's time. I need you at the circle. Or I expect you to come to circle and sit crisscross applesauce, and try to lay that expectation out there. But you still want to try not to let one child stop you from doing it. And sometimes it just takes kids a minute to come over. So if you don't worry about it so much and just keep going with your songs, often they will come. Not always, but then sometimes after circle, I would go talk to that child and say, oh, I missed you at circle. I would really like you to come tomorrow. And then that often worked. Not always, but often. So here is our morning song. Good morning, dear earth. Good morning, dear sun. Good morning, dear stones and flowers, everyone. Good morning, dear beasts and birds in the air. Good morning to you and good morning to me. And then I would end with a deep breath. And just model that deep breath and that pause right there for a minute before we would get started with our other songs and finger plays. And I wanted to mention that Bemidji Early Childhood has a YouTube channel now. So the ECFE teachers have songs and circle times and activities and finger plays up on their YouTube channel if you need more of those kinds of ideas. And Sundays with Sarah from Bella Luna Toys has a YouTube channel, Sundays with Sarah, and she has Waldorf style verses and all the different parts of a Waldorf day. And then Magic Onions also has meal blessings, and there are several, and they're just beautiful, and they're on the Magic Onions website. So I wanted to mention those resources. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.